Hello, Midnights. Next, Immortality, the Eternal Quest. We hope you enjoy our stories. Let us know where you are listening from and don't forget to subscribe. Since the dawn of human consciousness, the specter of death has loomed large, a relentless and inescapable finality. This fundamental truth has fueled one of humanity's most enduring and profound quests, the search for immortality. The desire to live forever, to transcend the limitations of a mortal coil, is a theme woven into the very fabric of our mythology, philosophy, and scientific aspirations. But what exactly is immortality, and is it a dream we can or should ever hope to achieve? The concept of immortality is far more complex than simply not dying. It can be broken down into several distinct categories that have evolved with human understanding, from ancient beliefs about the soul to modern scientific theories about consciousness and biology. Biological immortality. This is the most common and scientifically sought-after form. A biologically immortal organism doesn't age or suffer from senescence, which is the gradual deterioration of bodily functions over time. While they can still die from external causes, predation, disease, trauma, their internal biological clock doesn't run down. An example of this is the jellyfish Turritopsis dohrnii, which has the unique ability to revert to a juvenile state under duress, effectively resetting its lifespan. A physical immortality. This refers to the survival of consciousness or a soul beyond the death of the physical body. This is a central tenet of many religions and spiritual beliefs, such as the concept of an afterlife, reincarnation, or the ascension of a soul to a higher plane of existence. In these worldviews, the physical body is a temporary vessel, and true immortality is achieved by transcending the material world. Digital immortality, a modern and increasingly plausible concept. Digital immortality involves uploading or transferring a person's consciousness, memories, and personality into a computer or digital network. This would allow a form of existence independent of the biological body, potentially lasting as long as the hardware and software are maintained. This concept raises a fundamental philosophical question. Would this digital copy truly be you, or just a perfect replica? It's the logical conclusion of the transhumanist goal of decoupling consciousness from biological limitations. Modern science is no longer treating immortality as a purely mythical concept. The field of gerontology, the study of aging, is rapidly advancing, and scientists are beginning to unravel the fundamental mechanisms that lead to senescence. Key areas of research include 1. Telomere lengthening. Telomeres are protective caps at the end of chromosomes that shorten with each cell division. Once they become too short, the cell can no longer divide and dies. Research into enzymes like telomerase aims to prevent this shortening, effectively keeping cells young. And stem cell therapy. Stem cells have the remarkable ability to differentiate into various cell types. By using stem cells to regenerate damaged tissues and organs, scientists hope to repair the body as it wears down, much like a mechanic replacing worn-out parts in a car. Genetic engineering and CRISPR-Cas9. The advent of powerful gene editing tools like CRISPR-Cas9 has opened up the possibility of correcting genetic defects that lead to age-related diseases and even altering the genes responsible for the aging process itself. And cryonics, the practice of preserving a human body at extremely low temperatures, with the hope that future technology will be able to revive and repair it. While still highly speculative, it is the ultimate leap of faith for those who believe in a future without death. Transhumanism. This philosophical and intellectual movement advocates for the use of science and technology to overcome human limitations, including aging and death. Transhumanists envision a future where humans merge with technology, leading to superintelligence, enhanced physical abilities, and, ultimately, eternal life. The modern pursuit of immortality is grounded in a growing body of scientific research and technological innovation, moving the conversation from myth to a tangible, if distant, possibility. Epigenetic alterations. Beyond the DNA sequence itself, the way genes are expressed changes with age. This is known as epigenetics. Scientists have discovered that epigenetic clocks, such as the Horvath clock, can accurately predict an individual's biological age, which may differ significantly from their chronological age. This research suggests that it may be possible to reset these epigenetic markers to reverse aging. Mitochondrial dysfunction. Mitochondria, often called the powerhouses of the cell, produce the energy required for cellular function. With age, mitochondria become less efficient and produce more damaging byproducts like reactive oxygen species. This leads to a cascade of cellular damage that contributes to aging. Researchers are exploring ways to improve mitochondrial health and function to extend lifespan. In cellular senescence, this is a state where cells stop dividing but do not die. Instead, they release inflammatory molecules that can harm surrounding healthy cells. The accumulation of these zombie cells is a hallmark of aging. Senolytics, a new class of drugs, are being developed to selectively remove these senescent cells, showing promise in animal studies for extending both health span and lifespan. Artificial intelligence in longevity research, AI, and machine learning are revolutionizing the field. AI can analyze vast data sets of human genetics, lifestyle factors, and health markers to identify new targets for anti-aging drugs. It can also model complex biological processes, accelerating the pace of research from decades to years. On the SENS Research Foundation, founded by gerontologist Aubrey de Grey, SENS, which stand for Strategies for Engineered Negligible Senescence, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to combating aging. Their approach is not to find a single elixir of life, but to develop a range of therapies that address the 7 key types of age-related cellular damage. The quest for immortality is not merely a scientific pursuit. It is deeply intertwined with fundamental questions of philosophy, ethics, and ideology. Existentialism. From an existentialist perspective, the finitude of life is what gives it meaning. Thinkers like Albert Camus argued that human life is inherently absurd, but it is precisely in the face of our inevitable death that we find the freedom and motivation to create meaning for ourselves. An immortal existence would strip away this essential, motivating tension. The concept of death forces us to confront our choices and live authentically. Utilitarianism and resource distribution. The ethical dilemma of immortality can be viewed through the lens of utilitarianism. If a cure for aging existed, would it be morally permissible to withhold it from anyone? A utilitarian might argue that the greatest good for the greatest number would be to make the technology universally available. However, this raises the problem of overpopulation and resource strain. Would a society of immortals, unable to die, consume resources at a rate that would be unsustainable for the rest of humanity? This leads to a difficult ethical calculus between individual desire and collective well-being. Transhumanism. As an ideology, transhumanism is a philosophical movement that has evolved into a distinct ideology. It posits that humanity's current state is not the end, but a stepping stone toward a more advanced form of existence. This ideology sees aging as a bug in the human design that can and should be fixed. It's a progressive and optimistic worldview that places a high value on technological innovation and human self-improvement. Critics, however, argue that transhumanism is a form of techno-utopianism that downplays the significant ethical risks and social inequalities that would inevitably arise. The pursuit of immortality is a source of intense debate, with critics raising powerful ethical, social, and philosophical objections. These concerns, however, are met with equally compelling counterarguments from proponents. In criticism, immortality would lead to social stagnation. Critics argue that without the natural cycle of death and generational turnover, society would become resistant to new ideas. An immortal elite would monopolize power and resources, preventing progress and innovation. Proponents counter that a long lifespan would actually accelerate progress. An immortal person would have centuries to master multiple fields, solve complex problems, and contribute to society. The stagnation argument assumes humans would lose their curiosity and drive, which is a pessimistic view. Instead of a single generation of innovators, we would have thousands of generations within a single person. Furthermore, proponents argue that a longer lifespan would give us time to solve grand challenges like resource management, mitigating the risk of depletion. In criticism, immortality would create an unbridgeable social divide. The technology for immortality would likely be expensive, creating a permanent chasm between the wealthy immortals and the mortal masses. This would lead to global instability and conflict. Proponents acknowledge the risk of inequality, but argue that this is a problem of politics, not technology. They point to the historical trend of life-saving technologies, from antibiotics to vaccines, which were initially expensive but became widely accessible over time. The goal, they argue, is to make longevity technologies a public good, not a luxury. By addressing the root causes of aging, these treatments could eventually be more cost-effective than managing a lifetime of age-related diseases. On criticism, an endless life would be meaningless and lead to boredom. Philosophers like Bernard Williams argue that the finitude of life is what gives it purpose and urgency. An immortal existence would eventually devolve into a living hell of tedium, with goals and relationships losing their significance. Advocates for immortality challenge this premise. They argue that a person's capacity for joy, learning, and love is not finite. A person with an extended lifespan could pursue a wider range of experiences, master new skills, and deepen relationships. The boredom argument underestimates human resilience and our boundless capacity for new experiences. They suggest that the meaning of an immortal life would not be a singular goal, but an ongoing journey of exploration and self-improvement. The pursuit of immortality isn't a modern phenomenon. It's a persistent theme that is mirrored humanity's societal, philosophical, and technological development throughout history. Ancient medicine and alchemy, the quest for eternal life was central to early medicine and alchemy. In ancient China, emperors like Qin Shi Huang consumed elixirs of mercury and other toxic substances, believing they would grant them immortality. The European alchemist's search for the philosopher's stone was not just about turning lead into gold, but also about creating an elixir of life to achieve eternal youth and health. These efforts reflect a time when humanity lacked a scientific understanding of biology and sought magical or mystical solutions to the problem of death. The Enlightenment and rise of science, as scientific methodology emerged, the focus shifted from magic to empirical observation. Instead of elixirs, thinkers began to consider life extension through rational means. The 17th and 18th centuries saw the birth of modern anatomy and physiology, laying the groundwork for understanding the human body as a complex machine that could potentially be fixed or maintained. This historical trend marks the transition from a mystical to a mechanistic view of life and death. The 20th century and the genetic revolution, the discovery of DNA in the mid-20th century, and the subsequent mapping of the human genome ushered in the modern era of longevity research. This was a pivotal moment. The focus shifted from treating the symptoms of aging to addressing its fundamental genetic and cellular causes. The development of antibiotics, vaccines, and advanced surgical techniques dramatically increased life expectancy, demonstrating that human lifespans are not fixed and can be extended through scientific intervention. This historical trend provided a powerful proof of concept, transforming immortality from a fantasy into a tangible, if distant, scientific goal. The quest for immortality is viewed through a wide array of cultural lenses, shaped by different philosophical and religious beliefs about life, death, and the self. Eastern traditions, for example, Buddhism, Hinduism. In many Eastern traditions, the goal is not to achieve physical immortality, but to transcend the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. The ultimate aim is moksha, or nirvana, where the self dissolves and merges with a higher consciousness. This view sees the desire for eternal physical life as a form of attachment and suffering, a trap of the ego. The true form of immortality is spiritual liberation from the material world. Abrahamic religions, for example, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, these faiths generally hold that physical life is finite and that true immortality is spiritual, residing in an afterlife. The focus is on living a virtuous life to earn a place in paradise or heaven. The concept of resurrecting the body in the end times, as in Christianity and Islam, offers a form of physical immortality that is tied to a divine plan rather than human technology. The pursuit of scientific immortality might be viewed as an attempt to usurp God's role. Ancient Egyptian civilization, the ancient Egyptians were deeply obsessed with achieving a form of immortality, but it was not through elixirs or genetic engineering. Their focus was on preserving the physical body for the journey to the afterlife. The elaborate rituals of mummification and the construction of massive pyramids were all driven by the belief that the soul required its physical vessel to exist in the next life. Their quest for immortality was an act of faith and engineering, but one deeply rooted in the physical. In modern Western society, the dominant view in Western culture, heavily influenced by secular humanism and scientific rationalism, is that death is a problem to be solved through technology. This perspective often frames aging as a disease that is not only curable but should be cured. Immortality is seen as the ultimate form of self-actualization, a way to maximize human potential and experience. This is the cultural foundation for movements like transhumanism. The debate over immortality is not just a philosophical exercise, it is a serious discussion among leading scientists and thinkers with a wide range of views. Aubrey de Grey, a prominent biomedical gerontologist, argues that aging is a disease that can and should be cured. He is a key proponent of longevity escape velocity, a hypothetical point where medical advances add more than a year to a person's life for every year that passes. According to de Grey, the death of a human being from old age is a tragedy because it's completely preventable. Ray Kurzweil, a renowned futurist and Google's director of engineering, holds a similarly optimistic view. He predicts that by the 2030s, humanity will achieve a form of immortality through the use of nanobots that will repair and maintain our bodies at the cellular level. Kurzweil believes that death is a tragedy. I don't see any reason to accept it. In contrast, S.J. Olshansky, a professor of public health, takes a more cautious stance. He argues that there are natural biological limits to human lifespan that are unlikely to be broken. Olshansky has stated, "The last thing you ever want to do is extend the period of frailty and disability and make people unhealthy for a longer time period." He advocates for focusing on health span, the period of life spent in good health, rather than simply extending life at all costs. The pursuit of immortality is grounded in tangible trends and data, points that highlight humanity's progress and the challenges ahead. Rising life expectancy. Global life expectancy has more than doubled over the last 2 centuries. In 1900, the average was just 32 years. By 2023, it had reached approximately 73 years. This remarkable increase is due to advances in medicine, sanitation, nutrition, and public health, proving that human lifespan is not a fixed number. And prevalence of age-related diseases. Despite living longer, people are also spending more years with age-related illnesses. For example, hypertension, heart disease, and osteoarthritis show a dramatic increase in prevalence with age. Hypertension affects over 75% of people aged 80 and older, while cancer and Alzheimer's disease are among the leading causes of death globally. This data underscores a core objective of longevity research, not just to extend life, but to extend healthy life. And public opinion and attitudes, polling data reveals a complex public view on immortality. A 2013 Pew Research Center survey found that while a majority of Americans, 63%, believe medical advances to prolong life are a good thing, a similar majority, 56%, would not personally want to live to be 120 or more. This paradox highlights the deep-seated philosophical and ethical concerns surrounding eternal life, even as science makes it more plausible. To fully understand the complexities of the immortality debate, it is helpful to define some key terms. Senescence, the biological process of aging. It is the gradual deterioration of bodily functions over time, leading to a decline in physical and mental capabilities and, ultimately, to death. In gerontology, the scientific study of aging, including its biological, psychological, and social aspects. Gerontologists research the causes of aging and seek ways to prevent or slow down the process. CRISPR-Cas9, an acronym for clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats in CRISPR-associated protein. 9. It is a revolutionary gene editing tool that allows scientists to precisely cut and paste DNA sequences, offering unprecedented control over an organism's genetic code. And telomerase, an enzyme that adds the protective telomere caps to chromosomes. The shortening of telomeres is a major cause of cellular aging, and reactivating telomerase is a key goal of anti-aging research. And cryonics, the practice of freezing a legally dead body or brain to extremely low temperatures, with the hope that future medical technology will be able to revive and cure the person. It is based on the idea that death is a process that can be reversed. Transhumanism, a philosophical and intellectual movement that believes in using science and technology to enhance human capabilities and overcome limitations like aging, disease, and death. While the scientific pursuit of immortality is tantalizing, it raises a host of profound ethical and philosophical questions. The problem of meaning: if life is eternal, does it lose its preciousness? The finite nature of our existence is often seen as what gives it meaning and urgency. Would an immortal life be an endless and ultimately meaningless repetition? And social and economic inequality? Who would have access to the technology of immortality? It is highly likely that such a life-altering treatment would be prohibitively expensive, creating a permanent chasm between an immortal elite and the mortal masses. In overpopulation and resource depletion, an immortal human population would put an unimaginable strain on the Earth's resources. How would we manage a world where no one ever dies? The risk of stagnation. Would an immortal society become stagnant and resistant to change? With no new generations to introduce fresh ideas and perspectives, would humanity lose its capacity for innovation and evolution? The desire for immortality is deeply rooted in human culture, manifesting in a vast array of myths, legends, and folklore from around the world. Ancient epic tales. One of the oldest known stories, the Epic of Gilgamesh, centers on a king's desperate and ultimately failed quest for eternal life after the death of his friend. This narrative establishes a core theme: immortality is a prize reserved for the gods, not for mortals. Similarly, the Chinese emperor Qin Shi Huang, famous for the terracotta army, became obsessed with finding an elixir of life and died from mercury poisoning, ironically brought on by his quest for eternal youth. And mythical creatures and objects, the concept is also embodied in fantastical beings and artifacts. From the phoenix that rises from its own ashes to the legends of vampires and the elusive fountain of youth, these stories serve as metaphors for regeneration, the price of eternal life, and the futility of trying to cheat death. The Philosopher's Stone, a goal of alchemists, was believed to not only turn base metals into gold, but also to be the key to creating an elixir of life. The quest for immortality, while a powerful motivator, is not without its potential dangers. Beyond the ethical and philosophical dilemmas, some futurists and researchers warn of existential risks that could threaten the very existence of humanity or its core values. Social collapse. The creation of an immortal elite could lead to a permanent, unbridgeable class division. This could result in widespread social unrest, political instability, and conflicts over resources. A society where the powerful never die could also lead to a complete stagnation of ideas and a lack of generational renewal, hindering progress and adaptation. The immortality bottleneck. If only a select few gain access to life extension technologies, the world's population would become divided into immortals and mortals. This could create a dangerous power dynamic where the interests of the immortal class supersede those of the rest of humanity, potentially leading to extreme forms of oppression or even a new form of eugenics. The problem of boredom. On an individual level, philosophers like Bernard Williams have argued that immortality would be a tedious and ultimately unbearable existence. Without the threat of death, life would lose its urgency, goals would become meaningless, and the joy of new experiences would eventually fade into an endless, monotonous repetition. Williams posited that eternal life would inevitably lead to an ultimate state of boredom, a living hell from which there would be no escape. The quest for immortality is not merely a scientific challenge, it is a reflection of our deepest fears and highest aspirations. It speaks to our desire to transcend our limitations, to leave a lasting mark, and to witness the future unfold. While a world of true, biological immortality may still be centuries away, the journey to understand aging and prolonging life is already yielding remarkable benefits, from new treatments for age-related diseases to a deeper understanding of what it means to be human. Whether immortality is a grand utopia or a dystopian nightmare remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: as long as humans stare into the abyss of mortality, the eternal quest will continue.